But football without fans is not. You play a football match without fans, you're getting it. It can be the greatest game in the world. If there are no people there to watch, it becomes nothing.
Into Johnson. Johnson. Larson. Oh, he's in. Henrik Larsson! That is sensational! Nakamura, he has done it! Isn't that just typical?
The game is over. The Rebels have won.
A star is born at Celtic!
Champions. That's who we are.
How you doing? It's a strange feeling tonight. I'm still pissed off the weekend. Okay, I've no purged any deals yet for the weekend. I've not spoken to many people about the game. I'm still pissed off. So I'm sure we're going to have a few disagreements tonight. I know that I'm going to get accused by you guys and the viewers about being ungrateful, blah blah blah, all that shit. And I'll probably admit to it in about 10 minutes, but I've still got a lot of negativity. I'm going to hear other guys how you guys are doing. Like, by the way, just when I think about football in Celtic, I'm still in that pissed off mode. But when I'm out of it, I'm fine. You know, I've not been completely depressed since the weekend. But so I guess we'll be talking about the game because we never did a post-match about that. We'll be talking about these rumoured Celtic strips, some of which look ghastly, some of which look okay. We've had the Player of the Year awards as well. We can talk about that and everything and anything that we can think of tonight. We'll get James, Dazza, McGinty, Paddy and myself. We've spared no expense tonight. Somebody talk. Paddy, how you doing, mate?
I'm fucking smashing, mate. I know you're still seething. I'm very, very... I'm still quite a positive mood. Again, never ever happy to be beaten by that mob. But do you know what? See, in the grand scheme of things, it's fucking nothing. Again, take the positives for it, is that Angel see possibly and hopefully guys that are up to the task, guys like, in my opinion, Bernabeu, people like that who haven't really shown anything. And if we want to improve as a squad, improve as a team, Ange has to learn from his mistakes, which he did make. And the players on the park who will just push need to be whipped into shape or whipped out.
Look, we've just come through an absolute grueling season, right? And whether we like it or no, they've matched us pretty much game for game all the way through. And we've got ourselves in our heads in front and we've absolutely smashed it. We won the league the week before. I went to Celtic Park after a Hearts game and it was absolutely scenes, know what I mean? Listen, last week's just one of the games that you go into with a hang. St Mirren beat us and you never heard all the uproar, not this season. St Mirren beat us in a game that actually mattered, a game that meant something. Rangers beat us in a game that, God, you can be forgiven by just saying, thank God that's us the other line, and then just no performing. Do you know what I mean? Rangers had never been the game after Hearts anyway. That's 2 away games that we've had after the split. You know what I mean? So,
right. See just before we go any further, right, Gav, I know you're wanting to vent. So Hoggy for the CSP, Celtic Supporters Podcast, check them out, all the usual stuff. He put up a screenshot, right, and it's from Celtic Stats and Trivia on Twitter, I think. So if you'll allow me a few seconds to go through this. So they've put up, you would have to be 36 years old to say that Celtic haven't won the most league cups in your life. Assuming Celtic beat Inverness, you would have to be 95 years old to say that Celtic haven't won the most Scottish Cups in your life. You would have to be 90 years old to say that Celtic haven't won the most league titles in your life. No one in Scotland under the age of 89 has seen a club win more trophies than Celtic. We are what everybody else aspires to be. We are Glasgow Celtic, and we shall not be moved.
That's my full body just described there. I've got the knees of a 90-year-old. I've got the joints. I must have taken time. Sorry. I mean,
Gav's feeling.
Right, Gav, come on. Give us both barrels.
No, I'm not doing. It's not like a party style where you're going like a 5-minute rant. That's not me. That's not me. Look, I blame the. It's 2 defeats that Ange's had against the Rotten Mob. No, three defeats since he took over. His opening game at Ibrox in his first season, then we get bet at Hampden in the semi-final, and then of course that one there. So that's 3 defeats. On the whole, I think it's still a very, very good record for a manager, considering where he started from. Okay, so whenever you look at any perspective, then you can kind of calm down and say, right, okay, fair enough. You know what I mean? We're cruising towards a treble. Very, very unlikely that we're not going to win this Scottish Cup final. Very, very unlikely, but it's not guaranteed. So yeah, as a whole, season-wise, it's brilliant, and we have done better this season than what we've done last season. We won 2, now we're going for 3, and we won the league with more games to spare. Arguably, we've done it in a better style as well, and some players have improved. So perspective, yeah, but the game itself, I think one thing that irks me, and it's what I've heard from people saying it's a meaningless game. Depends what way you look at it. Meaningless game, yeah, the league is over, but people saying that they don't care, that they would throw in the youngsters, that it's a meaningless game. I don't get that. For these derbies, they always mean something. And if you talk about a winner's mentality, the players will never ever agree to that. You'll never hear them saying it, and they won't think about it internally. Pride is on the line every time you pull on the hoops, no matter who you play against. It always means something. But against that mob, it means a lot. Ange has spoken about in interviews when he's spoken to the players before games. He said, you might not realise it, but you've got so many Celtic fans who they might have had a shit week, but come the weekend, it means everything to them that you beat the Rotten Mob. You've got no idea how much it means to them, and it can make or break the rest of their week. Stuff like that. This game meant a lot, and the manner of the defeat, 3-0, is unacceptable. Unacceptable, and everybody takes blame, from Ange to the players. And I've spoken to you guys about it in the group chat. We want to get better as a team domestically, because, as you said as well, Rangers have won a lot of games this season, and people get lost in this phrase about the gap. I think the gap is a load of shite. You can look at the gap different ways, financially or player by player. Rangers have done very well this season, but we have been better. We want to do better next season domestically and in Europe. And in order to get to those levels, we need to be going into these games with a winning mentality. And
right.
it's you can laugh at me because I'm just like a wee bit annoyed. Why isn't everybody else thinking of this? Like, it's almost like some people have got this kind of apathy where they're just not too bothered about it. But we need to get to X level, and I just want us to be trying our very, very best. We never tried our best, and it looked as if we accepted our fate during the game when things weren't going our way. I'm just annoyed, and I'm annoyed as well that we were unable to affect change in the game as well. You knew it wasn't going well for us. At half-time, you were hoping that the players would go back into the second half with a rocket up their arse. Didn't work out that way. And with the substitutions, we weren't able to affect change. It was just a bad game. But on the whole, as a season, it's been brilliant. But I was just unhappy this weekend.
See if you look at the this season, as far as Glasgow derbies are concerned, is a mirror image to last season. Last season, we lost the first one, right? So we lost the first one last season, and that put us under pressure. So we'd lost to Livingston, and I can't remember who the other away game was, if somebody quickly reminds me. We lost 3 away games in a row. Rangers, Livingston, Hearts at Tynecastle in the first game of the season. So we lost to the Huns on the first game of the season. Paddy, you and I went and watched that in Kerrydale, I'm sure.
Yep.
That was Angie's first Glasgow derby. So the way I see it is, if somebody says to me, could you lose the first one or the last one? I'd say, well, if we're going to be winning the league, he's the last one any day of the week. I understand where everybody's coming from and the frustration's coming from because, and I don't want to go a Celtic dial on you on, remember the 90s. I'm trying to avoid going down that road. But the way I see it is the league was done. And it's just, you know what it's like when you get out, when you cross the line, you just have a certain, that's it, done. Let's move. Know what I mean? And it's, you can get caught off guard. Know what I mean? We didn't have the rocket up there saying it's not done yet. We've still got this today. We've in the league. We've got none today. Do you know what I mean? We've got nothing else that we need to do in the league this season. We've got one game left this season, and it's at Hampden on the 3rd of June. That's the only game we've got left in this season now. We lost that game because the Huns come out looking like they wanted to win a game. We come out looking like we've just won a league. Do you know what I mean? I'm out of it. I was out of it by 5 o'clock.
I'll be over it by the end of this episode. I'm sure I will. I just need to get it in my system.
Gav, can I ask you? Well, can I put something to you, right? Just to maybe let it pandering. See us. I know. See us losing that game, right? In the manner that we lost that game. You know, as Daz says, and I totally agree with him. Losing that game, if you take out the performance and you take out the amount of goals, it was a loss, right? So we could have beat 1-0, we could have beat 10-0, doesn't matter. It's a loss, right? That loss meant nothing in the grand scheme of things in terms of the season. But I think it could be possibly one of the best things that could have happened to us, right? And let me give you my train of thought here. Us getting into the Scottish Cup final, we've still got a couple of games to play in between that, right? So let's not disrespect any teams like St Mirren and Aberdeen and whatnot. But our big game of the season now is the Scottish Cup. And we're going to be playing the Scottish Cup final against Inverness, right? Now, we are the favourites, right? We are expected to win this. Celtic sometimes have turned up in games, possibly like Ibrox, turned up, I think, with the mentality of we can just turn up and win. And I think when Celtic are in the pole position that we are the new getting into the Scottish Cup, there could have been a potential there. There still could be, but right. But I'm thinking there could have been a potential there for us to just rock up, thinking, you know what, we're Celtic, we're better than them, we're going to win. We've slipped up before, and we could slip up again. And I think that this could potentially be the rocket right up our arse to say, do you know what, guys, we can't do that. We know that they can't do that, but sometimes when a player, and I'm just sounding this off, I'm not saying that the players are in this mentality, but I'm saying that they could be. Some of them could have just been rocked up to say, listen, it's no Inverness. This is our year. This is it. We're going to win the treble. Same as last year. We rocked up, went, that's it. We're going to win 10 in a row. 10 in a row is ours. What happened? We absolutely fucking collapsed. Right? This could happen again in the Scottish Cup final. So again, as I was saying, I think that this has potentially happened at the best possible time to give the players, the team, and the manager a reality call and say, listen, we're maybe not as good as we think we are, and we need to try harder, and we need to make sure that we are as good as we can be. And it doesn't matter who we play, where we play, and when we play. We need to be Celtic. We need to play like Celtic. We need to play like the champions. We need to play as if we want to win cups and win a treble. And as you were saying earlier on, Gav, talking about Big Ange saying he wants to send everybody home in a happy mood. That's what he's wanting to do. So that's what the players need to do as well. They need to go into that mentality of saying, listen, this is going to be harder for us than it is for Inverness, because the weight of the world is on our shoulders. Everybody's eyes is on us, and we can't afford to slip up, because this is what can happen.
But barring Saturday, right? And again, Celtic have never been complacent under Ange, not once.
Europa League. Bodo.
They were, I know, but
no, but again, mate, I think that was one of the I think that was one of the games that we potentially rocked up thinking, God, this team hasn't played for a month or 6 weeks or whatever it was. We're hitting good form. We should be turning up and beating them. And what happened? We got absolutely lost.
I think the weekend for me anyway, it's on the manager. And look, I'm not going to dig out the manager. Fuck, I forgave him already by the time they stopped celebrating the third goal. But I said going into it, I was confident, and I'm never like that. I always predict a kind of tight game. I thought we'd hammer them. I said 4-0. I was going off the assumption that we would go full strength because I didn't think Ange would change it the way he changed it. I know we had a couple in fourth, obviously with Carter, Vickers and Johnson, but then you're throwing in Bernabei, Abada's coming back in out of nowhere. And going into it, as I say, I know you always want to beat Rangers. If fucking Celtic Rangers played at Tiddlywinks, you'd want Celtic to win, but it wasn't the same getting into it. I mean, even myself predicting 4-0, if there was anything at all in that game, then I was 2-1, 3-2, usual stuff. But it just felt different, and as we've all discussed it, obviously apart from Gav, I got out of it pretty quick. I was out of it by the time the players were off the park, to be honest with you. You've got to take it in context. As you say, I think going forward, the good thing is it will be a reality check. He's maybe learned that Bernabei isn't going to be good enough in the long term. Kobayashi's got question marks on him now because I don't think he was great at Tynecastle. See, I'm not even going to go through the team because you could dig everybody out 1 to 11. But as soon as I seen that team lineup coming out, then to be honest, I'm like, we're not really taking this that seriously, and obviously so it proved.
But see if you look at the game. If you look at the game, right, and it's there was moments in the game. So the Huns come out, all guns blaring, right, and they got their first goal, and everybody knew that's how they were going to come out. Then we took control of the game up until just about the second half, but they then got that goal for a corner. So there was a rebounded goal, then a set piece, and their third goal was a stupid, I don't know what Callum McGregor, and I don't even know who the other person was in the middle of the park. Was it Starfelt? The two of them clashing into each other, right? So there's their 3 goals, right? And then obviously we've got O that hit the post, and it was any other party's fit, and that's a goal. Then you've got Abada's chance, and then you've got Matt O'Reilly's chance. So in a game of football, they weren't as good as what everybody in the world is, or what the media and what everybody's telling us. Oh, look, they sussed us out. We just had a bad day at the office. We had an understrength team with players that only played once or twice. You're saying Kobayashi's got a question mark. Kobayashi's played 2 or 3 games. Abada's just come back from injury as well. So listen, honest to God, in my opinion, it's a free pass on that one because A, we're champions. B, we've got the League Cup in the bag, and C, we're going to win the Scottish Cup. In my opinion.
McGinty, you've not spoken, mate. How you doing? Talk to us. What's your feelings?
I thought he was just a cheerleader.
How do you? First and call, thanks for having me on. No, quite a few things. I want to agree with all you, but I don't really want to agree with Gavin too much because, come on, Gav, it's not that bad, surely. But you're right, no game against them is truly meaningless, and you expect players to go into every single game with a fighting, winning mentality. And what seemed to be lacking on Saturday was that mentality. We seemed to give up the ghost to try and win that game from the moment the moment we kicked off, wasn't it? And they got the position. Went gung-ho for that first 5-6 minutes. They got the goal, and then they kept the pressure up a little bit, but then it dropped off. And as it dropped off, we just took no control over it. The players...
I think McGinty's internet in the Shetlands is...
Shetlands going up and down, is it? Aye.
Oh, there we go.
So I say...
You're back.
I'm back. I say the 2 players that James has mentioned, Kobayashi and Bernabei, big question marks over them, but I think there's still something there in both of them to be encouraged to bring them on for next season. But both of them have to go away over the summer and realise what they're lacking. For Bernabe, it's awareness, passing, accuracy, all of the above. With Kobayashi, he needs to go and strengthen up. He needs to go do a Tierney or something and come back twice the size almost. Toughen himself up and not get muscled off that ball. He seemed to be just lacking in that kind of self-belief, confidence in himself. Great runner, great tracker of the ball, but he's lacking massively. But come on to what we're saying about the game itself. And I know you all hate when I bring up stats, and don't worry, Paddy, I'm not going to bring up the XG. But there's some stats for you. Hard to see on that's hard to see on hamster technology up here.
Was that stats wise? That was like one of the see. Are you drunk to drive and you put the glasses on mind at school? I
was going to say the next thing you pull your phone up, why to check it first because you still get Formula One,
just in case. But no, the stats right. I'll run through them quickly. I'm not going to labour on too much about it, but just to try and prove a point, as Daza was saying there, chances went our way if you think about it really, and chances went really quite in their favour. Stats wise, possession 32 to 68 in our favour. Would you believe that we had twice as much possession as them? Probably no. Expected goals, I don't care to labour on about that, but 1.5 to 1.3 to us negatively. Our passes, 500 accurate passes to their 196. We dominated that ball. Yeah.
I know, but that was all Starfelt to Kobayashi.
Starfelt to Hart, yeah. Which is fair enough. And it's something we hated under Rodgers, was that passing around the back and actually doing nothing with the position. And that's actually a good argument to say less of that crap and get them dug out of it. But you look at fouls as well. 15 fouls they committed that they actually got punished for. We only committed 4. The stats generally... Yeah, we get more bookings, especially over Cantwell. But the stats, they don't paint the perfect picture, but they do suggest to you that we did that pish, surely. But what we didn't have was that winning mentality, that little bit of fight.
Surely you know what's going to happen, right? When we go to the ship at Ibrox, we've got no fans there. They've got their backs up. The media's got their backs. They're going to be getting everything like, let's not fucking beat about the bush. You know what I mean?
Of course, you saw it with Cantwell. You saw it with Cantwell, Paddy. You got away with everything.
I mean, listen, I'm not even going to lie.
That doesn't matter.
I was working. I never watched it. I'd never even seen it. I've not even looked at any highlights. That's how. I don't want to say uninterested because I always fucking try and make sure that I can see the Celtic games regardless of where I am. Sorry, but that Saturday, mate. To me, and I get exactly what Gav's saying. I get what you're saying, McGinty, as well. That was a dead rubber game in terms of the league. I know we don't ever want to get beat after them anywhere, anytime, but in the long run, it was a dead rubber. So I can totally get where Gav's coming from by saying, he's annoyed by people not being annoyed. But in the grand scheme of things, we can't win every single game. And
exactly, I'll take that over anything else, any other season. One defeat to them in a dead rubber. And I know they're not all completely meaningless, but that is as close to meaningless as you're ever going to get for that kind of game.
Gav, I just want to ask you a question, mate. I know I'm fucking jumping in and labouring on, sorry. Do you think that games like that is where you learn more about your team than when you're winning?
Yeah. It's a good point. You do learn more in adversity than what you do whenever you win. I heard a Celtic podcaster say that Ange may well have pulled a masterstroke in terms of maybe he meant it. He meant it in a kind of Machiavellian type fashion, that he put in some players who he thought might not be able to do it, and he did it in order to make a statement to the board. I don't buy into that. I wouldn't want a Celtic manager to do that. So yeah, I think we've learned a lot. Ange's learned a lot. At the same time, I don't think we needed to throw in Bernabe to find out the calibre of player that he is. Whenever Ange has been watching him every day in training since he arrived in Scotland, I think us McGinty, I think you might be the exception, but I would imagine, I can't speak for everyone else, I would imagine the majority here don't think Bernabei's got a future at Celtic. McGinty, I know that you kind of champion him, but my point is, I don't think you needed to throw him into the bear pit in order to find out that he's not going to be a Celtic player. I'm not writing off Kobayashi. Although at the moment he's not Celtic quality, he needs to do what, as you said, what Tierney did and bulk up in the summer and try and show his worth. Otherwise, Stephen Welsh is going to go in front of him in the pecking order. And I'm not going to throw O under a bus as well, even though I still don't think he's up to the quality yet.
You know what happened with O for me? Exactly what I was trying to say about after that opening kind of spell, they just seemed to lack complete fight or not care to win it, but we just didn't seem like we wanted to get in their faces. We didn't want to risk anything. We didn't want injuries. All seemed to be the same. See, once he made that chip and it hit the post, it should have been a goal, as is any other part of his foot that's going in the back of the net. As soon as that happened, he seemed to just drop out the game. It was almost like, this is not going to be our day, guys. Just let's no blow our arses off here and just let it go. Maybe more focusing on the final. Coming up in a couple of weeks. I agree with you as well, though, Gav. You don't need to see Bernabei make a game like Saturday to realise that, yes, at this point in time, he's no good enough. I think there's enough in him to see that there is a talent there that needs to be developed, but you didn't need to see it on Saturday. And it's something I felt, I think I put in the group chat at one point, Bernabei's not had that game that Alistair Johnson had. And I think it was the first game was against them. And he came in and we just went, oh, fuck, this is a player that's going to take over from Juranovic. He's not had that moment of, damn, this is a player. There's little sparks and there's little moments you can see he's got a bit of flair, but he's yet to win as a game. He carry the defence or anything like that. He's yet to excel. But I don't think he's doing anything remotely shite to say write him off. I think he's still got something there.
See, just on Bernabei, I was talking about this the other day, actually. Mind the game at Ibrox earlier in the season, and I want to say there was some on that, but obviously the league wasn't won at that point, so there was obviously a lot more riding on it. When Greg Taylor got injured, he brought on Juranovic to play left back ahead of Bernabei. So, yeah. And then even the game at Parkhead in the league, the last one, when he brought Bernabei on, he didn't play him at left back, he came on as a left winger. So I think Ange himself has got that wee thing in his head with Bernabei where maybe that was his kind of sink or swim game, and obviously as we've discussed, he's sunk. But I think, as I say, I'm no Starfelt's biggest fan. I'm not going to go too fit in on him because, as I say, you could go through 1 to 11 and probably slaughter everybody. I don't think anybody comes away with pass marks. But I think the one, no, for me, honestly. It's the same thing again, and I know we're going to end up fucking rolling about the floor in the comments again, but everybody says he's solid, but he's directly involved. 100% McGregor's involved with it, but I don't get how you can say he's solid when he's directly involved in getting a goal away. My thing with him is always, he's solid, but, and I just think if I want to get better, I would keep him. I'm not saying sell him, but he wouldn't be starting for me. I'd have him on the bench.
I think if we want to kind of consolidate our position domestically, then Starfelt is what you want. He's definitely upgradable, though. Definitely, James. Just to kind of nail the final nail in the coffin, or hammer in the final nail in the coffin for Bernabei. Bernabei will be 23 at the end of this summer. He's older than like Matt O'Reilly. Think about how good Matt O'Reilly was whenever he joined. Think about Kieran Tierney whenever he was, a 20-year-old, and he was playing for us at fullback. Bernabei has already played for. Bernabei was like a starter for his team Lannis back in Argentina. The guy is not going to make it at Parkhead. Not going to make it. So, I guess we're not. Maybe we don't have an appetite to go through each player individually. We don't want to be that negative because that's certainly how you caught flack on a podcast. But I'm saying Bernabei has been a waste of money. We spent over $3 million on him. Waste of money.
Listen,
at this point, Gav,
no every player works out as we know. Look at what do you call him?
No.
Do you know what I mean? We'll be lauded with talent and success for all the signings and for the J League. But there's no work to it. Adaguchi for one reason or another. you would have to be. I don't think there's been any manager in the history of world football who's had every single signing has worked out. Some players just don't settle. Some players just don't fit in. They look great when you bring them in, when you're scouting them and whatnot, but they just don't. They just don't settle. They just don't do this. And for me, as it stands now, Bernabeu is one of them. I don't think I've seen anything from him defensively that shows that he's good enough to be a defender. It certainly looks like one of these guys who's a failed winger, who's been put to left back because he's not good enough to be a winger, but he's not even good enough to be a left back. And as you said, Gav, he's going to be 23. You know what I mean? That's
see to get back to the game, right? If we'd lost at Tynecastle the week before, and then we were going into the game at Ibrox, I'm telling you, we don't play that way, and we don't play with their players.
Aye, so, of course we don't.
So we don't play the way that we played there. We play with hunger, we play with passion, and we play with, we've just fucked it up the week before, we need to go there. But as I says, we put our helms were down, we won the fight, and then, you know what I mean? It was, again, it's a gone point for me now.
But see what you're talking about, right? We've heard the Ange since last season, talking about having a strong squad, talking about no having to rely on players like Joe Hart and Callum McGregor for every game. And they guys have pretty much played every single game. When you, regardless of the importance of the game, which, again, for me, the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that important. But if I'm just playing the players, then they guys still need to step up, regardless if they've played 2 games, 3 games, if they're 23, 33. These guys are want to be part of this squad, right? And see if they're no good enough to start a game, then they're no good enough to be on the bench for me, because you're sitting there with inferior players who can't step up to the mark. I get it, like obviously it's a cauldron of hate going there with absolutely no fans. They're fucking ferocious with whatever they're flinging at the park, excuse the pun. But sink or swim, James, you said the exact same thing. That's exactly what you said, sink or swim. And these guys had to show that they were there to put up a fight. Bernabeu's just there with the mentality of, I'm going to be back up to Taylor. Fuck off. Get the fuck. We don't want back up to Taylor. We want better than Taylor. We want guys to be challenging for spots.
Can I just say...
I will not... And you go, Gav, sorry.
Just going to make a quick point. I get what you're saying, Michael, about that, but I think the difference between Taylor and Bernabeu is Taylor used to be a central midfielder. That's how he started his footballing career. So our style suits him coming inside. In terms of Bernabeu, I don't get that that's his style. So Taylor, his attributes suit what we're doing. With Bernabeu, I just don't see it. I just see he could be a good player in a different system, but I don't see it for us. Sorry, Dazza.
I'm not going to judge any single Celtic player on last week. Now, I know we're all saying the sink or swim, and I did, but I'm playing devil's advocate on my own argument a wee bit here about players that are just, they never stepped up to the plate on Saturday, right? But you look at Bernabeu, right, against Ross County when it mattered. He came up with an absolute thunderbolt of a strike. You know what I mean? And he played brilliant in that game. I know it's only Ross County, but only Ross County on a game that the points mean something. Or no, honest man, I reckon I'm probably the biggest happy clapper that you'll ever see. I'm very optimistic at all times. But for what this team has given me, I'm going to give every single person that played in Saturday there a free pass. It's done. It's gone. It was a meaningless game in respect of it's not going to affect the outcome of a season. We're on course to be a world record 8 trebles. Do you know what I mean? It's honest to God, if the players can almost, in my opinion, can be forgiven for just letting their guard down on one game. That maybe everybody disagrees that they should have just kept it up for one more game. They could have probably, I tell you what, right? I firmly believe if we beat them on Saturday there, and then we lost every other game on the way into the end of the season, nobody'd have cared. Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry, I just can't get on there. I can't find a word of criticism towards this Celtic team, you know, because of everything that they've gave us. Whether it be we're on course for a record 8th treble. Do you know what I mean? It's a good time to be a Tim. So Saturday is a faux pas. Do you know what I mean?
100%. But I mean, look, I think the only really the two names that's been mentioned in terms of is what we're saying, kind of sink and swim is like Kobayashi and Bernabe. Like McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly was no bad, but McGregor and Hatate were miles off it. But they've got so much credit in the bank that we're not even really talking about it. Do you know what I mean? Like Abada as well, to an extent, credit in the bank. It's just Bernabe and Kobayashi are kind of largely unknown and haven't got that credit there yet.
No, I agree with that. I do agree with that. But as a team, they get it as a group of players. Do you know what I mean? And honestly, God, if we all sat here in I don't know if you've got a pre-season now. What's our ambitions? Where are we going to go? I don't know if we've got a pre-season in archives. But if every single one of us were offered what we are sitting at the day, we would have all bit hands off. We would have all been sitting there like that. If we've got that come the 16th of May, oh my God, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. No, that's great saying that, right? And you're spot on. But like, if you put yourself in Big Angie's shoes, Big Angie's going to sit there and still be raging. He's still going to analyse things. He's still going to nitpick. He's going to.
That's his job.
I know, but that's like if you're sitting talking about a game in isolation, just because we're going to win, well, we could win the treble, doesn't mean to say like Gav isn't right. And
I'm never saying Gav is right.
No, I'm not saying he did. What I'm saying is, if you want to look at things and all, then you need to look at the negatives as well. And these guys are going to be part of the squad. God forbid something happens to Kyogo and he can't make the cup final. We're going to have to go with O. So you need to look at O's performances so far. Do you think O's good enough to lead the line? Do you think he's good enough to step up to the mark on the big occasion? I don't, because he's not showing anything. Bernabe, I know Bernabe keeps fucking getting his name put to the forefront, the poor guy. But this is just obviously talking points. You can't go through the full team. But these guys have been given a test and they've failed, right? They have failed. I'm not talking about the league. I'm talking about the game on Saturday. These guys were given a test and they failed. Hacksaw failed. Bernabe failed. Kobayashi failed. O failed. No, I mean
you can't say Hacksaw manager has failed.
How?
He's come in every game. Just about every other game he's come on the park. He's produced something.
Noise, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. I respectfully disagree.
See when Haksabanovic, and I'm going to criticise him. See when Haksabanovic has been brought on as a sub, more times than none, he's been decent. But see when he started again, he's been pish, total pish.
But he never started again, did he?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm talking about Haksabanovic. When he started again, he's been pish. So he has failed when he's been given chances this season. And on Saturday, obviously, guys were given a chance and they failed. So if Ange can't put these guys into a game and get, I'm not saying they're going to win it, but to put a performance and put up a fight, then what's the point? What do you say to that? Do you say, right, listen, just forget about it? You don't see the same. Be fucking better.
At the same time, though, that's where, as I say, like, I'm sounding pure negative. I'm genuinely at it before a great season. Fucking, I'm no obviously just talking about the weekend in isolation, but for me, that's where the manager has to carry the can. It's all right. See if you've got a big squad, fair enough. But I mean, you're going to Ibrox, as you say. You know what the atmosphere is going to be like. There's no Celtic supporters there. As much as we're saying it was a meaningless game, there was maybe something on it for them in terms of like winning a game to maybe get a wee bit of confidence for next year. So, as you say, we know how they're going to start. So, we had a couple of forced changes, but you can't make that many changes at one time. And he came out after it and he says that maybe that was something that he got wrong. And I mean, we look back to St Mirren, and again, I'm no slagging off a manager, but you look back to St Mirren and it was the same story. We made too many changes and it went tits up. So having a big squad for me, see if you're making maybe one or two rotations every week or every couple of weeks, I feel those, but don't change. I mean, like we were missing, obviously, Johnson, Carter, Vickers, Taylor, Kyogo and Maida against Rangers have been massive this season, and then in Tapirat, for me at least, Hatate still doesn't look fit. So you're talking about half a team that's either no there or no fit. It's just too many changes at the one time. But as I say, I'm not going to get carried away, get too negative and all that. We've had a great season, but for me, it's on the manager. But I'm out it already. As I said, like, don't hold that against them at all. But it was on the manager on Saturday for me.
Well, one thing I want to bring up to you, Gav. I don't know if you heard her. That fucking Ailey Barber, the Sky Sports presenter. She came out with some absolute fucking diatribe at the end of it and says that basically they're getting into the summer with the bragging rights.
Yeah, I think she clearly misspoke. She's not worth her salt as a presenter. If she doesn't regret saying that, I think it must have just been like a slip of the tongue. And
slip of the blue nose.
Yeah, perhaps so. I don't know what her allegiances are, and to an extent, I don't care. But it's a ridiculous statement. To think that we're going to be avoiding the Blue Noses during the summer because they beat us. They beat us after 6 attempts. We played them 6 times this season. We've won 4, drawn 1, and get beat once. To think that they take the bragging rights for that? No, that's just not how bragging rights work. So I think she misspoke.
I think she said Chris Boyd in her ear or through advert breaks or something like that. And
yeah, I think she's had Marvin Bartley in her throat.
No doubt, mate. And it has been a tough season, like television wise, watching it on Sports Scene for the highlights and watching it on Sky Sports for the personnel that they've got for the amount of time that Sky Sports give us, the coverage. It's not the best, and it's a shame that we need to put up with that. McGinty, I know that you've not spoken much. If I can ask you a question, I know that we can be quite fickle as football fans. We can get carried away with the highs and carried away with the lows, which some might well accuse me of today, which is fair enough. But after the weekend's game, does that change your opinion about our strength and depth? Is it as strong as you had thought, or has the weekend changed it?
It's not as strong as I thought, or at least the motivation from some of them isn't as strong as we would hope. I think we've touched on Andrew's post-match stuff already, and I'm not going to be able to quote every aspect that he's mentioned, but there was that one bit that he's held his hands up to his part. He's admitted that the fight wasn't there, and he's admitted that too many changes and it wasn't the right game to do that. He's disappointed, he's upset, he's angry. It'll be a lot worse behind the scenes than on the camera. And I think he's realising is the same that we've all touched on already tonight, is that some of the players just aren't there yet. And I'm a big advocate of Burnaby. I'm a massive advocate of Abada, who, by the way, is the only person of the starting 11, in fact, the entire squad on Saturday, that for me, that barely gets a pass mark, and even that is a stretch. But I think he's realised as much as we have that there's some players that, they're just not going to be good enough. The depth just isn't quite there, or that some need to go out and just really toughen themselves up and pick themselves up. You mentioned earlier, Gavin, that you had on another podcast, don't care to name them, of course, that maybe Ange meant to prove a point to the board. I don't think so. And we all know what I think about the board, and I'm waiting for this summer to end before I make a firm decision if we've moved forward as a board, as a club. But to suggest that Ange put that team out like that to prove a point, to say something to the board that, oh, look, this is what I've got at my hands, you need to give me more, as if he's not getting from the board, is to suggest that there's actual issues there, which there's zero evidence of at all, that Ange isn't being backed and isn't getting what he needs off this club and this board. And as I say, I'm waiting until the end of the summer, because this is the crucial summer for me to see what we do, how we back the manager, how do we back this squad, because it does need backed, and that's what Saturday there tells us, that there's more depth needed. and there's an attitude change that some people need to have in that squad as well. Because I don't understand how, as you said, Paddy, they all failed. How do you get Bernabe, Kobayashi, Haksabanovic, Matt O'Reilly? For me, I think I've watched a different game from James, was absolutely honking one mazy run and just dinked it over the bar as well. Good run, but I think he was absolutely honking. The whole team was practically honking on Saturday. Some of the attitudes need to be better, especially with the guys coming on like Kobayashi, Bernabe, Haksabanovic. They just didn't seem up for that at all, up for that game.
Mate,
and that's why that's not a meaningless game, because you have to be up for that.
That guy that you mentioned, O'Reilly, I know that he got the Young Player of the Year award. I might get some flack for this, but I was shocked because I think he's been fucking honking this season. I know he's had a few moments of brilliance. He's maybe got fucking stats for assists or whatnot, but in game, I think he's been shite.
See, in fairness, so I think for the Young Player of the Year, it was literally between him and Abada. So I don't know
Abada's been shite in Orange, so.
I know that's how I think it, because obviously if you look through choice, it wouldn't be O'Reilly, it wouldn't be Need MD's Player of the Year, but I think it was just because they obviously an age thing for a young player.
And I hope Mr. Ewan Boy doesn't get any flack for that. I hope he don't get sacked, mate. But thanks for telling us.
Did anyone have any qualms with the awards then? So Kyogo, Player of the Year. I think Hatate was up there, but over the course of the season, I think for me, very, very difficult to argue with Kyogo. Without Kyogo, we would have struggled more. I'm sure we would have found some solution without him, but he's been pivotal. I think he's probably been the most consistent, apart from maybe Cameron Carter-Vickers.
Kyogo, 100%. It's well deserved.
It's between.
By the way,
yeah, I was just going to say it's between Kyogo, Carter-Vickers, and potentially Hatate. They're the three mainstays, but you're not arguing with Kyogo when he's bringing those and shit like that. It's Kyogo.
Gone away for the club awards to the PFA awards. Obviously, Kyogo got Player of the Season, Jota got Goal of the Season, and what was the other one that Celtic got?
Ange get Manager of the Season.
Ange get Manager of the Season, right? See if you go through all the comments, man. I don't know how we didn't deserve them. I'm calling to people. I was reading some of the comments. The boy for was it Hearts that scored the goal for just past the halfway line.
That was a belter, to be fair.
I get into a debate. With a Hearts fan about that, right? And
that was your first mistake.
I know. I get into a debate. I goes. That was a hit and hope. Do you know what I mean? That was he tries that another 100 times. That doesn't happen again. Whereas Jota's with skill, precision, and everything. Angle. It was. It was. You could. I could hit that ball for the halfway line. If I hit it on the sweet spot, it's gone in. I could do that. I couldn't do what Jota done.
Do you know, mate? It's so ironic you mentioned that because I was up. I won't say where I was, but I walked past John Rankin the other day, and I thought he's quite an odd-looking wee chap. And then I remembered he's famous for one thing and one thing only: the fucking flukiest fucking goal look. You know what I mean? The guy tried it about 3 or 4 times after that and dramatically failed. So no, I totally agree with that. But listen, it still was a cracking goal. But
I couldn't take anything away for the goal. I could not take anything away for the goal. Whereas it was he saw the keeper after the line and he hit a dig. Right? He tries that another 20, 30, 40 times. He's not making that happen. You know what I mean? Whereas if Jota's through the goal every time, he's doing that. You know what I mean? He's doing that. He means that. That boy hopes Jota meant. And for Manager of the Year. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, look at a few other players who've scored fluky goals or meant to score cracking goals over their careers. Recently, Liam Scales, Aberdeen against them. Is that ball from the touchline? Did he? Or is it a bit fluky?
100%, mate. Meant it.
I'm not going to say
it's fluky because it's a shot he's trying to score. I think what you're saying there.
Yes.
if you're saying he does it 1 time out of 100, then surely that makes it that bit more special.
Oh,
it can, but I see what he's meaning. I'm going to take the shot because I see the guy off the line, and I expect anybody who's a professional footballer to be able to take a bullet of the shot from the halfway line and reasonably successfully get that on target 9 times out of 10.
So you expect most players to be able to do that?
If you've got a player with a ball in the middle of the park, I expect almost every professional footballer from midfield to front, at least, to be able to unchallenged from the middle of the park and be able to respectively get that on target 9 times out of 10 within reason.
Did you vote for as goal of the season?
Aye. But just to keep talking about guys who may or may not mean goals, look at guys like St Rankin. He tried it a few more times and he was not successful afterwards. But then you look at guys like Roberto Carlos and Ronaldo with the free kicks. They hit the same free kick every time, so they did time because they know what they're doing and they actually have that ability. Same as Joe, he'll do that.
Roberto Carlos is probably the most overrated player in history when it comes to free kicks because he tried that fucking a million times and I think he only done it maybe twice.
Yeah, the one against France. The one against France in the CONCACAF was no, I mean it was. I don't know how that happened, and I still look at that goal and well, by the way,
I hate to tell you, mate, but he's actually come out and says that he thinks that the wind helped him because it was windy that day.
Of course it did.
Is that the one they done all the scientific tests on and all that? It was impossible.
They put the ball adapter. He put the ball adapter at exact angle and. No, but see the thing is though, to what you say that the 1 in a million shot for the Hearts player. No many players scored goals for their own half, right? Apart for Beckham, right? And Beckham was an actual chip. Now Beckham was a look up, take a shot. All that boy done was a ball fell from and he just seen the keeper off his line and he just gave it his best and hoped for the best. Whereas Jota's goal involved now sheer skill. And it was the keeper was coming to him, and the only thing that he could have done that day was the chip. You know what I mean? Right. The Larson-esque chip, and then drop. That was the only thing that he could have done that day, and he got the goal. So for me, Jota won it on merit.
It was like the magic bullet that killed JFK. Right. I don't know if any have heard of that story. I won't go into it, but have a look at it. It's fucking incredible. Gav, there's a question that's popped up for the most wonderfully named Craig White legend. We need a new keeper. So I know that the Rotten Mob Alanga Road, they've pretty much announced that their fucking talisman, Alan McGregor, is going to be finally retiring at the end of the season. But do you think, and this isn't a bash at Joe Hart, this isn't a fucking us having a go at my end, but do you think that we need somebody, certainly somebody better than Siegrist and Bain to at least challenge Hart, but do you think that we need somebody there that could probably overtake Hart?
We've spoken about it on the podcast. I compared it almost to like putting down an old family dog, an old family lovable dog, and how you would take it. But maybe it's just got a couple of weeks left, and it's had better days. Maybe it is. Maybe it's necessary. Although, and the semi-final against the Rotten Mob at Hampden, I thought Hart had a very, very good game. And it made me think, Hart, what he brings to the squad, in terms of the experience, that kind of calm assurance, and what he brings in the dressing room, that's very, very difficult to replace. You could get someone who on their YouTube clips might look better than him, but whenever you make that transition, you're like, oh fuck, and you've seen what happened with Barkas, he looks good. He comes over, and for one reason or another, it doesn't help. It doesn't work out. Another thing I was thinking, and it's kind of tying in with this. We're only going to have Ange for so long, okay? Now this I don't know, call it another 2 years, okay? Let's say 2 years, maybe 3 years if we're being generous. think of the playing style that he wants to play with, and this window that we've got. And in terms of like how I was pissed off, I want everybody to have a winner's mentality in every single game. If everybody is really trying to kind of push themselves and challenge each other to be the best that they can be in this period that we've got, Ange, think about the potential of what we can do. A lot of people have said maybe we could win a European trophy with Ange, albeit not the Champions League, but perhaps the Europa League. If we are really firing in all cylinders, if Ange is given the best backing that he's got, what's the ceiling? You know, nobody's to say that we can't do, you know, what we failed to do in Seville. We could perhaps do that if everybody is really pushing, trying, and Ange is constantly innovating his team and the board are giving him the backing. So to kind of tie in with your point, if we replace Hart with somebody who's good, I'm not saying like a Champions League guy who's going to cost 15 million, but if we do our due diligence and bring in someone and take that risk, imagine if it worked out. Imagine if we don't lose out with the lack of authority that Hart brings. And imagine if this guy is good with the ball at his feet and he's a half-decent shot stopper as well and commanding in the box. That doesn't necessarily have to cost you 10 million plus if you're shopping in the right markets. If we take that risk, it could actually work out. So I'm not saying yes or no. It's just I would trust Ange to pull the trigger if he knew that he was making the right decision. So
there's a comment for you and boy, and I'm not too clued up exactly about the ins and outs of the new Champions League format, but he's saying that Champions League goes up to at least 10 games. Do you think Joe Hart's good enough to be playing 10 games in the Champions League? Do you think fucking Starfelt is? Do you know what I mean? I know this is all sounding quite negative, but it's for me, we're doing a bit of forward thinking here. Do you know what I mean? Because that's what's going to happen in the summer anyway. Ange's probably already been doing this for the last few months, looking at next season. So
this season we've conceded 20. This season we've conceded 25 goals in the league. Out of 30, I don't know how many games we're in. So we're less than one a game.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Hart for me is a great goalkeeper, right? What I think, and I listened. I don't know if any of you listened to the podcast they done with Ben Foster. Is it Ben Foster?
The Foscast.
The Foscast. And I listened to him, and what he says, where he's gone now for when he was younger, was when he was younger he used to just do things instinctively. Now he didn't care about thinking. Now he thinks. And so maybe thinking is his problem. And the only other player, oh God, I'm going off for a wee tangent here, I'm sorry. The only other player that I could relate that to was Mark Burchell. When Mark Burchell didn't think about scoring, he scored. But if Mark Burchell had time to think about it, it would end up with me in North Stand. Do you know what I mean? So basically, what I'm saying with Joe Hart is Joe Hart's a great goalkeeper, and I think there's a couple of years left in him. And if he's got a good defence about him, and he's out of 25 goals in the league, he's probably liable for on his own for the 2 against the Huns.
I don't think anybody's doubting that he's good enough for Scottish football, but when we do go into the Champions League and we raise the bar at playing level, do you know what I mean? And especially like, I don't know if it's next season or the season after it. If we do go to 10 games, I don't think he's good enough to be playing all the games. And that's what we're talking about with the glass ceiling. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about strengthening the squad. You don't just strengthen the squad, you strengthen the team as well. I was listening to TalkSport today, right, coming home, and it was talking about some guy was on talking about Brendan Rodgers. Says that they came 5th. I think it was 5th twice in a row with Leicester, but he was buying players that won an upgrade on the first team players. He was buying players almost like backup players. So that's the kind of trap that we can't fall into. We can't just stay at a static level and say, right, listen, McGregor's too good enough, Joe Hart's too good enough, Starfelt's too good enough. these guys know that. Do you know what I mean? We need to be looking and saying, right, we've had success out of getting guys who have had a point to prove, a la Joe Hart. We've had a success out of guys who have been a surprise, if you want to call it that. Talk about Kyogo. We've had a success out of guys who have been young prodigies but haven't had a chance. Jota, people like that. But now, if we want to really progress next season in the Champions League, I was happy with the performances in the Champions League, maybe par one game this season, but we certainly can improve on what we've done 100%, and that's what we need to be looking at. We need to be looking at getting stronger guys in. We need to be looking at getting maybe an old winner like Joe Hart, but at a Champions League level. You know what I mean?
Aye,
But see, the thing is, sorry, James, sorry, I'll let on you go, James, because I've cut you off a couple of times.
No, sorry. I was going to say, I actually think I've said it on here before, is kind of similar, well, ties in with what you're saying about Rodgers. For me, the club as a whole is at the same position we were at when, well, just before Rodgers left, when we were after your Castagnas, James Justin, McGinn, and that was kind of, it was a wee bit more money, but it was looking to take his own to the next level, and the board didn't match his ambition, and then obviously left. Should never have done what he'd done, but through the kind of time, well, obviously that's kind of, when you look back on it, that's how I see it, at least anyway. I think we're at that point again, and I think that the club's in a better place in terms of like the supports relationship with the board. I think we're all kind of either on the fence or positive at the moment, which is basically never happened, certainly as long as I can remember. So I think we're at that stage, especially going into this summer. For me, every player we sign this summer, and I'm not saying we're going to go out and sign another 10 players, I think we'll sign 3, 4, maybe 5, but for me, they need to be first team ready. It's no project, it's no guys that's going to come in like a Bernabeu and sit on the bench for 6 months, sit on the bench for a year. They've got to come in, walk into the first team, and it might be harsh on guys like Joe Hart. Joe Hart, for me, isn't good enough for Champions League level now. I know it splits opinion, but I'd be looking for a centre half. Greg Taylor, is he good enough for Champions League level? No saying he's a bad player, but it's just you need to have that ruthless streak. A right winger, I think, is something that regardless we need to sign because we don't really have one. And there isn't a point, to me, I don't see a point in going out and signing a 18-year-old centre-back that's played 10 games in his career to come in and sit on the bench for a couple of years, and we'll see in a couple of years if he can make a step up. They've got to be coming in, maybe like 5-6 million, come in, straight into the first team, and if we're serious about kicking on Europe, where the squad is just now, and obviously this year proved it, the squad, as good as it is not good enough for a European campaign for me, be that drop into Europe League and through the knockouts, or obviously as we've seen the Champions League.
And I think that's something that McGinty's been quite consistent about as well. Is that right, Mr. Shertons?
See if he's watching that form again.
See, the thing is, though, right?
No. What's he saying? What's he saying to it?
It's something I've always said about the club. We need to strengthen when we can, and we need to build for Europe. So if we take ourselves as being, last place in the Champions League group stage this season, and that's our start, to improve on that. So there's no point buying squad players who might develop in time, because clearly the starting 11, no offence to any of them, they're not all collectively together as a group good enough at the Champions League to get third or second spot. So we need to buy better players. And I'm not saying we go spend 19, 20 odd million on a Champions League 5 campaign effort player. We go out and we sign a Josip Juranovic or an Alistair Johnson, who haven't played that level of Champions League, but they only cost a couple of million, a few million each, and they are Champions League ready players. They are that level. So we need to go out and buy them. I'm going to say something though, just to touch on, get the guy's name, but we're linked with a defender for Holland just now, are we not? I think he used to be at Barcelona and a few other places. 21-year-old, I imagine he'll probably cost 3, 4, 5 million to get him. But for me, as much as I'm saying we need to go out and buy better players, there's some positions where you don't really want to rock it too much, and Starfelt and Carter Vickers does have a great partnership, so you don't just randomly shove somebody else in there. But Kobayashi and this other guy could be the 2 players you do look at to take over from those 2 in that year's time. But if they're not going to be up to it, they're developing them for 2-3 years. We need to replace. this is something Andrew says many times, he's always 2 players ahead sort of thing, but we need to replace who we know is going to leave next season or the season after with somebody now who's ready now to be that a 21-year-old who might need 6 months to bed in, or a 25, 26-year-old and a Christopher Julian-esque who just comes in and does the fucking job.
To go back to
that Dutch guy looked good, to be fair. He'd get a job fucking as a giraffe's barber. He's about 7'3", but he looks in a video, man.
To go back to the
Give him
goalie,
that, take him.
To go back to the goalie, Joe Hart, for me, right? Who can we get that's better than Joe Hart? Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at they were linked with, is it Butland? If we were linked with Butland, I'd be raging. Do you know what I mean? I would be raging if we were linked with Butland because I'm like, is he an upgrade in Hart? No. Right? So then what we'll do is to take Hart out of now the firing line. When Hart has played with Carter Vickers and Starfelt as a duo, Celtic's never lost. So for me, I don't think the keeper is. I think the keeper is somebody's just said it online one day and everybody's ran with it. He's but I don't think he's as bad as what's been made out.
No, nobody's saying that he's bad. We're just talking about, like, he's obviously good enough for Scottish football as it stands, right? But he's not going to be here forever. We're probably going to get one more season out of him. But is that season when we're trying to be better in the Champions League? And this isn't just talking about Joe Hart, right? I know obviously that's the name that we're talking about, but we're no singling him out around. Just a name that's popped up conversation. Is Joe Hart upgradable?
Yes.
So they're all every single player in that team is upgradable.
But who's realistically like upgradable? You're probably not going to get better than Callum McGregor, right? You're maybe not going to get better than Jota. I don't think you'll get better than Carter Vickers. But guys like Taylor, as you mentioned, James Taylor, Joe Hart, Starfelt. These guys can still have a part to play in the squad. Right? So Joe Hart can play games, but you can certainly upgrade on them.
But so if we're going to upgrade on Joe Hart, who? Remember, a goalkeeper is the one position in the park that's unique. They're on their own. And there's a million left backs in the world. There's a million right backs. There might only be 500,000 goalkeepers in the world. Do you know what I mean? It's a unique position. I know. No, it's a unique position.
So is left back. Left back's probably one of the hardest fucking players to get.
If Big Fraser Foster became available, would you take him before Hart?
1,000,000%.
I would no.
Forster still got it. He still got it. Compared to Tottenham fans, much prefer him over Hugo Lloris, and saying that Lloris has been shite this season.
But see at the same time, and you could argue the same with Fraser Foster. See the way we play football and the way that Ange plays football. When we've not got the ball, your goalie is essentially a third centre half, like where he stands. So I think, and mate, I'm the same as I dare say we'd all be. A goalie's job is to keep the ball out the net. See if they can't pass a ball 40 yards, it doesn't bother me. But see the way we play, the biggest thing that your goalie's got to be is good with the ball at his feet. And I think if we went through his all, we would all say that was probably Hart's glaring weakness. He does not look comfortable with the ball at his feet, but he's never looked comfortable with the ball at his feet. That's why Guardiola came into Man City, and obviously he kind of went out on loan a few times and then eventually left. But it's no saying that he's a bad keeper. He's been a fantastic keeper for us. He's been a great signing. I know for a second saying that I don't think he's good enough for Scotland, but when you say upgradable, everybody's upgradable. We could go out and get like Messi. Obviously, that's an upgrade, but you've got to be realistic and within the price range that we'd be looking at. Like for 5 or 6 million, could we get better than Joe Hart? I think so. For 5 or 6 million, could we get better than Carter Vickers? Absolutely not. So when I say upgradable, that's kind of the way I look at it. Like that, I think within our price range, we could get better than Joe Hart.
Well, just to take Joe Hart's name out of the firing line, I think that saying's already been said. Look at the goalkeepers that we've got, right? So Joe Hart is the number one keeper as it stands, right? We've got Siegrist, who I don't think he'll be here next season, personally. I've heard a few things. Might be right, might be wrong. I don't think he'll be here. And then we've got Scott Bain, right? So I'll ask you this question. Is Siegrist and Scott Bain upgradable? Just
Yes,
a simple
they
yes
are.
or no, right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly right. So see if we want to bring in another keeper, are we just bringing in a backup? Are we bringing in somebody who's no good enough to be number one? That's the whole point of looking at this squad and seeing guys playing like Bernabei, who isn't your first choice left back, Kobayashi, who at the moment is not your first choice centre back. Abada, I don't care what anybody says, he's not a first choice player. He might do his thing in the squad, but he's not a first choice player. These guys are the guys that we're talking about being upgradable. Joe Hart's probably only getting spoken about because of his age, because he's already said that, you know, he won't be playing when he feels his body getting to it. And for what I took of that, I'm sure his contract's up next season. You know what I mean? But as I say, if you bring in a goalkeeper, is it good enough to be bringing in another Siegrist or another Scott Bain? I certainly don't think it is, especially when we're going into Champions League. We're talking about going for a baseline quality at the Scottish Premier or the fucking Sunsh League or whatever it's called to Champions League. It's hard enough for our first team players to make that jump, you know, every fucking so often. But then when you're getting guys like Bain and Siegrist, there's fucking Kieran saying Connor Hazard, absolutely not, mate. The big boy to fish.
Can I throw one at you, Paddy? And I'm sure we'll be in the same.
Connor Hazard's like Albert Knight.
It's going to contradict what we've said, but see that Kelleher for Liverpool, would you take him?
Yes.
So would I, but then it flies in the face of what I've just said, because technically he's young, he's not played a lot of football, do you know what I mean? But for me, I'd take him because Liverpool play, or Klopp plays the same way with the keeper in terms of coming out from the back, and he looks decent when he has played, so that's a nice for me as well.
Can I ask you then, James, based off of what Paddy's saying, if we got interested in Bain, which I'm all for, and replaced those two with Kelleher, is Kelleher better than Hart? And I'm asking that purely as somebody who's never seen Kelleher play. Is he better than Hart?
Currently, I think so. I'd be more comfortable getting into a Champions League campaign with Kelleher in goals as opposed to Joe Hart.
I would love a goalkeeper that can actually save penalties.
How old is Kelleher?
Craig Gordon couldn't save fucking penalties. Joe Hart can't save penalties. You know what I mean? The last man we've had that could save penalties was probably Fraser Forster. And
Fraser Forster for me is the greatest goalkeeper we've ever had since Ronnie Simpson.
If you think about, see, Artur Boruc and Fraser Forster, what they did for us, like their European exploits, you know, they were proper goalkeepers and they earned their move to England. If you compare what they've done for Celtic and the memorable games that they gave us compared to Joe Hart standards right now, if we're being honest, Joe Hart standard right now doesn't compare at all to Fraser Forster and Boruc, and that's what we want to aspire to. I think with Joe Hart, there's a kind of a sentimentality attached to it, and we're aware of what we had before Joe Hart, Barkas, you know. And we're aware of what he brings in terms of authority and, you know, the presence of the park. But if we're being honest, he doesn't compare at all to Boruc and Fraser Forster. He was a great goalkeeper once upon a time, but not right now.
But see, Fraser Forster and Artur Boruc, they were keepers that played under the cosh. So they were keepers that had it coming to them a lot as well. You know what I mean? We played against teams, even like Hearts teams under Boruc and Fraser Forster, Huns teams under Fraser Boruc. They came at us, so they had to be on their toes all the game. Joe Hart, for the most part, is playing with a Celtic team that is constantly going forward, and it's rarely. So again, it's like sorry, I'm going on another tangent. Duffy. When Duffy's playing in a defence, that's coming at him, he's brilliant because he's constantly on his toes. But then he gets times to when he played with us, he get times to switch off, and he did switch off. Whereas that's with Joe Hart. Joe Hart switches off a lot because we're constantly on attack. No, this is the most attacking Celtic team I've seen in a long, long time.
I would disagree with that, mate. I don't think Joe Hart does switch off because see when you see him, see if you're at the game or whatever, you're watching the telly, you maybe catch it. You can see Joe Hart. Joe Hart's like fucking. He's doing fucking what sprints between his posts. He's keeping himself fired up. He's keeping himself rolled up.
Aye, just keep yourself warm and there's.
No, I know, but he's obviously keeping himself sharp. He's not just standing there like Rob Douglas fucking holding a towel. But see, if Joe Hart was to play in the Champions League next season, I wouldn't be against it, right? I wouldn't be like, oh, for fuck's sake, Joe Hart's played. But my whole point is, we need to upgrade on Scott Bain and Benji Siegrist because if one of the two was to start, I'd be furious. And my whole point is, should we replace them? Hopefully we do. Is there any point in replacing them with somebody who's just no good enough to be the number one? Because if Joe Hart gets injured, then you're having to turn to this guy. So what's the point in signing a kind of decent fucking like a bit of toast? You want steak, mate. We've got steak, but it's it's almost at its sell-by date. We need to a wee trip to Morrison's, mate, and get a nice piece of flat iron or sirloin or.
And that's why I'm asking about this Kelleher guy for Liverpool. What is his age, and is he better than Joe Hart? Because there's no point replacing Siegrist and Bain with another Siegrist or Bain. Because Siegrist and Bain are decent enough keepers. He has to be better than Hart. And if it means that next season Hart only plays the cup games because this guy's that good, so be it. There has to be no sentiment in this at all. Now, if you look at the defensive position, as James was mentioning with Carter Vickers, that's almost an impossible job to replace Carter Vickers. In the same way it's impossible to replace Van Dijk. But we need to get somebody who is on that par because at some point he's going to leave.
Very good, Kieran. Very good.
Again, go back to my question though. How old is this Kelleher? Because the other two keepers we keep mentioning tonight.
I think he's 25, mate. But
we signed Artur Borch.
The only reason
Kelleher we signed Artur Borch and Fraser Foster young.
Aye, but the only reason Kelleher has been mentioned is because he's been reported in the media. Right? I don't think there's any chance we'll get Kelleher. No. But we really need to be looking. Well, I say we, right? Ange and the guys in the transfer committee, Mark Lawwell, fucking Gilles Lefebvre, whoever it is, all these guys need to be looking at that because that's their job. So I mean, we can only speculate, we can only fucking imagine about guys that are good enough. Who's going to be available to us? We don't know. These things can change in the summer, as you know. You know what I mean? But the whole point of it is we just need to be better. And we need to have one eye on the Champions League, right? And like it or lump it, we need to have it in our mind that they're going to come. The Rotten Mob are going to be better next season because we need to expect them to be better. We can't just go into the next season thinking, by the way, they're still shite. It's all right for us to say that, you know what I mean? Because we know we're allowed to say that. But if you're professional and you're on the ball and you want to be this all-conquering team in domestic football, then you need to expect the unexpected. And the unexpected right now is them being better than what they are. But what we need to do is we need to move up a level. We need to do that on our own in terms of Europe because we can't. We've got a glass ceiling in terms of Scottish football, right? We know what we're getting. Teams coming to Celtic Park, camping out, us attack. We can do that because we're afforded that because the quality of football up here is utterly pish. I would love it if we could leave this fucking godforsaken league because in terms of being selfish, we can't go any higher. And it's detrimental to us in European football, how shite this league is and how shite they approach us for other teams coming to Celtic Park. But that being said, it's up to us to make that jump. And we've done it so far the last couple of seasons. We started off in the Europa League, wrapped into the conference, then we went to the Champions League, and then we went right out to Europe, didn't we? After the Champions League.
Yes.
We went right out of Europe. So in terms of the first season and the second season, Angel have learned from his experiences. Some of the players that are still in the squad now for last season will have learned from their experiences. Like Kyogo, I would be expecting Kyogo to score a couple of goals in the Champions League next season because he was almost there. If he'd have been a bit more clinical, he would have scored. He never. So you're hoping that he learns for that, takes it into this season and puts that into practice. Same with guys like Jota. He needs to take the experiences of, I would say, shiting his pants in the first few games to fucking coming up and then scoring a goal in the Bernabeu. Taking that forward and saying, do you know what? I can do that. I can do that at that level. I was good enough to score a goal. I was good enough to take a man on. This is what happened when I didn't take a man on. My confidence went down, blah, blah, blah. So all this moving forward into next season with the addition of a couple of good players, really good, solid players, and potentially maybe somebody who's had Champions League experience as well, is where we need to be looking at. And we certainly need to be looking at guys who physically are dominant, because we have been dominated physically by Sevco in Scotland. We've been physically dominated in Europe by teams like Shakhtar. Real Madrid, right? Real Madrid's a fucking mute point because they're the best team in history, right? They are the most successful team in the world. So you can understand them fucking overpowering you. But as I say, this season, it took Real Madrid to raise their levels to Real Madrid to beat us at Celtic Park. That's where we can look at and be positive, but we still need to look at the negatives and say, right, we were out-muscled, we were out-fought, we were outran, we were out-sped, whatever. And that's the kind of things that we need to look at and say we need better players for that, or we at least need players in to challenge guys like Greg Taylor, challenge guys like Starfelt, challenge guys like Joe Hart, even challenging guys like Kyogo. We still need to be looking at being better, because O's not going to challenge Kyogo. O's there as backup. I don't care what anybody says. He's dizzy. He's not showing anything good enough to be a number one striker. He's no better than Kyogo, but we need somebody to push Kyogo. And Jota, guys.
Paddy, your Wi-Fi cut out there. Could you just repeat that, please?
Oh, you're kidding on. Great. Fucking 5G, I'm on. Shut your hole.
Right, gents, can I just sort of take us off on a total different subject just now? Obviously, you know that Maui Lassie plays football, so women's football is something that that I'm quite forward in now, because I'm hoping Maui Lassie can go down that route. So let's look at the football season this season, right? So first and foremost, we'll look at the women's season. We're getting into the last game of the season, and there still can be 3 possible outcomes. So after tapping my head, let me see if I can get this right. For Celtic to win the league, we need to beat Hearts at Celtic Park, and we need Rangers to take points off of Glasgow City. So we need Rangers to take points off of Glasgow City. So if Rangers draw with Glasgow City and we beat Hearts, we win the league. If we win and Rangers win,
we need to better by one goal.
By one more goal.
So what you're saying, Daz, is that we need to cheer on the Sev cows and hope that things don't go tits up.
But Rangers still need to win, because the second place is a Champions League. The second place is a Champions League place. So Glasgow City are sitting 2 points above us and them, and we could drop 2 points.
Did that one get out?
The Sev Cows was good. I liked that one, and I'm going to use that one.
Thanks, mate. By the way, as soon as it's you, I'll let you have it, because I played that to you.
And also, the game against Glasgow City, the Green Brigade and the Bhoys behind the goals. How good did that look? And should that be something that Celtic should look at, is to actually move them behind the goals in the Celtic end?
It might not have been a coincidence that they placed them there.
Do you think that was a trial?
No, it was. It was essentially it was a trial. But see, the good thing about that as well is, I know obviously I do the Celtic supporters pod as well, and Kev's on that, and he's a part of the Kano Foundation. If you don't know what it is, it pops up the link down there below. So
they're in the Kano's in the Lisbon Lions lower. This is
I know, but I think what you're talking about is the atmosphere. And for all reports. I never saw it myself, but apparently it was incredible. And that's the kind of thing that you can take for that women's game, right? And by the way, I'm sure that was absolutely incredible for the women to have that kind of support. But let's be honest, I don't think it was all support for the women. I think it was more a lot of support for trying that out, more so than it was the women. You know what I mean? Which is unfortunate to say. But if you take that for that instance and then transfer it to the actual Celtic games, that kind of atmosphere would be fucking top notch. There's obviously there would be issues with that, like people maybe no wanting to move seats, which is fair enough. That's a fucking prerogative. They pay for their seats. But having that kind of Dortmund wall is what they're kind of referring to, and trying to do that would be excellent. It would be excellent for the support. It would be excellent for the atmosphere. It would be excellent for the players, because players feed off the atmosphere. You know what I mean? So 100% agree with you, mate.
Right. I must admit, I watched the game during the week, that Glasgow City game, and I thought about getting the ticket for it, and I just like, I'll just leave it. And then watching it on the telly, I was raging with myself. So I've got my ticket today. Is it 150 or something you need to pay? Aye, for the weekend. So hopefully it'll be the same again. We'll get a wee party at the end of it.
There's a lot of variables for this week, and I'm telling you, that's an exciting season. So it'll do women's football no harm, because I genuinely don't know how it's going to go. I've been trying to look at the bookies to see who's the favourites to win it, just to try and gauge it. But you can't split the three of them.
I dare say Glasgow City will probably be the favourites, won't they? Because technically it's in their hands.
There you are, there's Michael the boy. I've got friends in the Celtic end, and they basically said the Green Brigade can fuck off. We're no moving. And by the way, listen, they've got every right, because they've got every fucking right to say that.
Yeah, of course they have.
I didn't realise that the league was that close.
Mm-hmm.
I actually thought that we were further down the table. I didn't think we were in the running for it, which is weird, because I think we've actually beat them at every single level all the way through the season up until the weekend there. But just having a look at the awards and stuff.
The Huns beat us in Airdrie just a few weeks ago there, and that's what. If we'd have beat them or drew with them, then it would have been in our hands. But it's
fair enough.
And then even Glasgow City were playing Partick Thistle at the weekend there, and it was one each right up until the last few minutes, which would have then put it all down to everybody on level and points. But Glasgow City got a late winner. Honestly, man, it's.
Dazzler, can I make a wee request here that we stop referring to the women's Rangers team as Huns, because I think it's derogatory. Can we please refer to them as the Hens or something?
Is that no sexist? I'm not going into this transgender, this us, them, and you know what I mean.
Would that no mean that if we called them hens, we'd have to call the men's teams cocks?
By the way, I'm sure we already do.
I'm all right with that.
That works for me.
But I was looking at the awards.
There's fucking McGinty switching the conversation to cocks again, man. What you like?
Hey guys, I was looking at the awards as well, Elliot, and I was actually quite interested. Let me get this one out, Gav. We've dominated all the awards. Was it Ange, Kyogo, McGregor? Have all won the awards. Jota won best goal, and I think it actually was Caitlin Hayes that won the women's awards for the PFA as well.
And Ben,
so
ben
well done to them all.
Young player of the year as well.
Young. So absolutely well done to them all. No, apparently I think they got them for the PFA, not just the Celtic.
Oh, sorry. I
think we wiped the floor, which is even better to beat the rest of them. So well done to everyone. So
can we? My big pal just texted me there. Can we not just call them the Buns?
Aye.
Is that you saying they need to get back in the kitchen?
Hey, you watch your tone, young man. That's incredibly sexist. This is 2023, not 1953. Right? A woman's place.
Oh, by the way,
not in the kitchen. It's in the box if she's a keeper.
That's a great segue. Paddy, thank you for saying that. It's not 1953. But by the way, can you guess what happened on the 16th of May, 1953?
Fuck
Celtic
off.
defeat.
Don't tell me you have 1953.
Man United.
Paddy's
Man
exams.
Was it?
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Aye.
What?
Man United.
1953. Celtic
Man United.
defeat Manchester United 2-1 in the semi-final of the Coronation
And
Cup,
death.
thanks
Yeah,
to goals
no.
from Betty Peacock and Neely Mockin. And then a few days later, would beat Hibs in the final at Hampden. That was, of course, the Coronation
Hampden's
Cup.
a sea of green and white.
So we'd beaten Arsenal to start with. We beat Man U, and then we beat Hibs. Rangers had a shocker. They get beat in the opening game against Man U. And funnily enough, we shouldn't have even been in that tournament because we were 8th in the league at that point, and it was meant to be built on meritocracy. That's why you were invited. But obviously, we had a lot of fans. That game itself played at Hampden between Celtic and Man U. 73,000. That was the attendance. And it was a windy day. So there you go. Guys, Baller of the Week and Ball Bag of the Week. Maybe a difficult one for Baller. I'm open to suggestions.
The woman says killed the goal.
Right, Gav, you're getting my ball bag of the week.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm
That's original.
Is that you starting on OnlyFans?
I'm my camera for this one.
Well, my ball bag of the week's whoever designed that snake fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle home kit. That's my ball bag. Of the
On
week.
that one, it's the last thing I want.
I'm going to give it the moniker of the Lizard Lions.
Right.
Teenage Mutant Ninja
Fiends. The last
Fiends is
thing I'm
what
going
I
to see
see.
for the night before I bugger off. That kit is actually a mock-up by Footy Headlines. It's not an actual kit yet. It's they've had a snippet of the socks that has the lizard bit, and they've taken that and they've replicated it to what they think it might look like. That is not the actual kit. I'd be surprised if it's as closely horrendous as that is.
I'm kind of
right.
like
It'll
this.
probably be worse.
More likely.
Ball bag of the week. Todd Cantwell.
Who's killed James?
Who done it?
Baller of the week.
Murder mystery. Find out next week. I think ball bag's a bad one. Ball bag is the entire team if we're going to put speed. Baller, get one of the lassies or something if you want to.
Jacinta.
Aye.
There we go. Jacinta, Baller of the Week. Ball bag, maybe.
Surely Starfield's the baller of the week. And we'll talk about Jacinta.
Ball bag.
Ailey Barber.
Sorry.
Oh, Ailey Barber gets ball bag of the week for the. Aye, there you go. It's amazing how we can all agree on something very quickly.
Very true. Guys, right, we have been on for an hour and 36 minutes. If you're not aware, there is Champions League going on right now. Inter Milan and AC Milan. It's still nothing each, and Inter Milan might go through 2 each in aggregate. So we'll be back this weekend for a post-match review of the game. But it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. I feel as if I've exercised some demons tonight. I'm no longer going to be thinking about that game at the weekend.
Can I say before we go, your face was pure bright red when you started, and it's now got a Caucasian colour of
a natural.
Aye.
I was really annoyed earlier on, man. I was.
I like the annoyed Gav though because he quite cutting in a good way.
Right, anyway, guys, we'll wrap up for this evening. To the viewers, thanks very much for watching. If you've not done so already, hit the like button and subscribe. We love you. Over and out. Catches.
Go.